Okay, so we'll start today in Supta Baddha Kanasana on our backs, that butterfly shape with the legs. So soles of the feet together, knees out wide. And if this bothers you at all, this is a good opportunity to use blocks. You could put blocks underneath the knees to just give yourself a little bit more support. If you're fine, skip it. That's totally fine. Just wanted to throw that option out there in case it makes a difference for someone. So the other way to make this a little bit more gentle is by moving the feet away from you. So we're coming into a gentle hip opening. We're not trying to jam open the hips right out of the gate. So go easy on yourself and bring the hands on the body. So maybe bring the left hand to the heart, right hand to the belly, or whatever combination works best for you. Close the eyes and start to feel the outer edges of the feet on the mat, the hips on the mat, upper bodies on the mat with the head and backs of the arms. Elbows are heavy. Start to take a deep breath in through the nose, filling up, lifting the hands. Exhale out of the mouth, let it go. 2 more like that. Big breath in. Exhale out of the mouth, let it go. Last one. This time in through the nose. Slowly out through the nose. Keep going. Reach the arms overhead, finding a stretch. Keep the legs the way they are. And if you're feeling any pulling or straining, just walk the feet away from you a little bit until that goes away. Take an inhale. See if you can reach back a little bit more, getting really long, hugging the core in a little bit. And on the exhale, reach forward between the legs. So you're lifting the shoulder blades up and away from the mat. You're reaching forward. And then inhale, reach the arms all the way back. Get long. So find a stretch. And on the exhale, reach the arms forward like you're trying to reach over the toes. And inhale, reach up and back. Exhale, reach forward, hugging the core in, lifting the shoulder blades up and away, reaching forward. Inhale, back. Exhale, reach forward. Last one. Inhale, reach back. Exhale, reach forward. And set the head back down onto the mat. Hug the knees in toward the chest. And you can rock side to side here a little bit. Then keeping the knees where they are, interlace the fingers back behind the head, rest the head on the hands, keep the elbows wide. So inner edges of the feet will stay connected. So you can even just look at the inner edges of the feet now. Keep those connected. Knees can come out wide as long as the feet are still touching. And then take an inhale right where you are. On the exhale, curl. So lift the shoulder blades. Try to get those knees down to the underarms. So you have to lift the hips up to do that. And then inhale, extend the legs out in front of you, hovering the heels. Exhale, curl it all in. So you're trying to bring yourself into a ball. And then inhale, extend, hover the heels, get long. Exhale, bring it back in. Inhale, extend, get long. Shoulders are hovering a little bit. Exhale, curl it all in. Inhale, extend, stretch the legs out. This time, exhale, curl it all in. This time, legs go up toward the sky. And then you can reach the arms, the elbows wide. And then exhale, curl it all in. Inhale, extend the legs up, elbows wide. You can rest the head if you want to. Exhale, bring it back in. Inhale, extend. Exhale, bring it back in. Inhale, extend one more of these. Exhale, curl. Inhale, extend, set the head down, hug the knees in, rocking side to side. And then you can either roll over to one side or grab onto the backs of the thighs and start to take some rocks up and down the spine. And if you take the rocks up and down the spine, see if you can find a little bit of a balance so that you're hovering the feet away from the mat, just like Navasana, but you're still hanging onto the thighs for support. Then you'll just do one more time. Maybe you actually play with Navasana if you want to, reaching the arms forward. Legs can be bent or they can be straight, depending on what you feel in your hip flexors, really. Chest is lifted and set the feet down. Come forward to hands and knees. So coming into tabletop. And then from tabletop, bring the forearms down to the mat. Walk the feet back behind you. So you're coming into a forearm plank. You're really coming into Sphinx pose. Set the hips down, tops of the feet down, lift and spread the chest. So as you pull those feet back, you're stretching the top of the hips as you point the tailbone back. Chest opens up wide, and it's like those bottom tips of the shoulder blades are trying to push the heart forward. Back of the neck stays long, so look down the bridge of the nose. And then make sure you're still pressing down into the forearms and the hands. Sometimes we can get a little light there, but we want to apply pressure. And then look back down at the mat, tuck the toes underneath you, fire up the legs, lift the hips up. So you're coming into a forearm plank. And we don't want the hips to be too high. You want them just right in line with the rest of the body as you hug the core in. Looking forward always helps a little bit. And then one hand at a time, plank pose. Bend the knees and just hover them away from the mat. So go as low as you can. You'll feel this in your core right away. Come back up to plank pose. Two more like that. Hover the knees down toward the mat without touching. You could even lightly touch and then just lift them. Come back to plank pose. One more. Hover the knees. You reach the chest forward. Back to plank pose and then come to hands and knees. So walk the knees in. Stack the shoulders over the wrists, hips over the knees, and then we'll do cat-cow. So on the inhale, reach the heart forward, lifting the tail. On the exhale, round the whole spine. You keep going on your own, linking your own breath with your movement, seeing how you feel at this point on your mat. And feeling some heat in different areas of the body. One more cycle, forward and back. Back to a neutral spine. So from here, shoulders are still stacked over the wrists, fingers are spread evenly, and then make sure those index fingers are pointing forward or a little bit out. So they're not pointing in. And then step the feet back to plank pose. So you're keeping the shoulders stacked right over the wrists, heels right over the balls of the feet. So this is our length for our downward facing dog and our plank. So don't move the hands or the feet. They're right where they need to be. Just lift the hips up and back. And that's down dog. Feet can be hip width distance apart or wider, especially if the legs are tight. That always feels really good to widen the stance in your downward facing dog. And then as the legs become more open, you can go to a narrower stance, but no narrower than hip width distance. Inhale forward to plank pose, lower all the way down to the mat slowly, setting yourself down, tops of the feet down. And then bring the elbows out, the hands out wide. So off the mat, you're coming up onto the fingertips, tenting the hands, and you're just lining up the elbows so they're underneath the wrists. So you can check out that on each side. Press into the tops of the feet, lift and spread the chest. So it's a wide cobra, hearts reaching forward, lower back long. Exhale, release. Two more like that. Such a great way to warm up the back. Inhale up, shoulders back. Exhale, release. Last one. Inhale up. Exhale, release. Bring the hands back down to the mat. Take child's pose. Big toes together. Hips go back. Arms forward if the shoulders are okay with it. Down dog. Right foot steps up between the hands. Feet hip width distance apart. Come up onto your fingertips and maybe you just hover the fingertips away from the mat. Reach the arms back behind you. Chest can lift so it's away from that front thigh, but you're still staying low with the upper body. Building some heat in this front leg. So stacking the right knee right over the ankle, or it can be a little bit behind, just don't go beyond. And then make sure all the weight isn't just in the front leg. Get some weight in the back leg so it can help too. Point the hips straight back. Sometimes they swing over to the right. Left hand comes down underneath the left shoulder. Right arm reaches up. So you're just coming into a twist, hugging the belly in to open up. Right hand comes down inside of the right foot. Walk the hands over to the left. Heels in, toes out, just like halfway. Keep the hips pretty high and the hands down on the mat. Bend the left knee. Keep the right leg straight. So you're reaching the heart forward. Feet are flat on the mat for this one. So it's a really gentle, high skandasana. Getting that stretch on the inner right leg, left hip. Come back to center, walk the hands forward toward the top of the mat, finding your lunge. Step straight back, downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Left foot steps up between the hands, feet hip width. Find that runner's lunge. Come up onto the fingertips and then dig down into the legs and the feet. Just hover the fingertips away from the mat. Reach the arms back behind you. Keep reaching the chest forward. Chest is away from the thigh, but still low. And you're stretching that right leg way back, keeping some weight in that leg, not just in the front leg. Then you can play where that left knee is. If you have it behind the ankle, get it right over the ankle so you build a little bit of heat. Stay with the Ujjayi breath. And then slow and controlled, right hand comes down underneath the right shoulder. Left arm reaches up for that twist. Keep stretching the right leg back behind you, keeping the top of the right thigh lifted. Left hand inside the left foot. Walk the hands over to the right, coming up onto the fingertips. Heels in, toes slightly out. Bend the right leg, straighten the left, both feet flat. Reach the heart forward. Hips are still pretty high. You're just bending the right leg, straightening the left. Starting to slowly get into the legs. Back through to center, walk the hands forward toward the top of the mat, find your lunge, and then step back, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Bend the knees, look forward, walk the feet up to the hands. Forward fold, top of the mat. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Two more, Ardha Uttanasana. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Let's come all the way up. Circle the arms, press into the feet and the legs. Bring the hands together overhead and down in front of the heart. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, bend the knees, hands down to the mat, step back to plank pose. Lower down halfway chaturanga, cobra or up dog. You're ready for either. Back to downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look forward, step, walk, maybe lightly hop if you're ready for that. Skip it if you're not. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms on the inhale all the way back up to standing. Exhale brings the hands together down in front of the heart. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhaling up halfway. Exhale, hands down, back to plank pose. Lower down halfway, chaturanga, chest open. Tops of the feet, up dog on the inhale. Exhale, back, down dog. Bending the knees, look to the top of the mat, real light with the feet. Bring the feet up. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms up on the inhale. Hands come together on the exhale, down in front of the heart. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, hands to the mat, back to plank pose. Lower down halfway, chaturanga. Inhale up for your up dog or cobra. Exhale back, downward facing dog. Few breaths here. Right foot steps up between the hands. Find the runner's lunge again. Come up onto the fingertips. Start to float the fingertips away from the mat. Reach the arms back behind you. Stay low as you reach the heart forward. Press that left heel back. Left hand down, right arm up. Find the twist, same legs. Try not to let that left thigh drop down toward the mat. Right hand inside the right foot, walk the hands over to the left. Heels in, toes slightly out. Same thing we did before. Bend the left leg, straighten the right. Both feet can be flat. You could play with lifting the toes on the right leg. If you do that, it's like you're trying to drag that heel in toward the body, not pushing it away. Set the foot back down if you lifted it. Come back to center. Bring the toes to point forward. This time, little bend in the knees, hands to the hips, rise up to standing. Angle in the left toes, turn the right toes all the way out. Spread the arms out wide. We're coming into triangle pose. So keep that front leg straight. Reach the hips back as you stretch that right arm forward, and then bring the right arm down, left arm up. And this is our first triangle, so you don't have to go that deep into it. Maybe you lift up a little bit more with the torso. You don't reach down as much. You play with it, see what feels good at this point in your practice. We'll take this to reverse warrior. So start to put a little bend in that right knee as you reach the right arm up and back. And then you lunge deep into that right leg. You reach away from it as much as you can. Opening up the right side rib cage. Come to extended side angle. So either forearm to thigh, left arm reaches up and over. If you feel ready for right hand outside the foot, you could also do that maybe on a block. Hands come down to the mat. Once you get the hands down to the mat, reach that right leg back. So three-legged plank. You're hovering the right foot. And then roll to the outer edge of the left foot, reach the right arm up, side plank. So if this bothers your wrist, come down onto the forearm and you can do forearm side plank, and that works too. You can hover the foot, you can have it stacked on top of the feet, or you could even bring that left knee down. Come back to forearm plank or plank, whatever you decided to do from plank. We'll all meet in forearm plank. Set the hips down onto the mat, Sphinx pose. Tops of the feet, reach the heart forward. So you can see where we're going, plank or side plank or forearm side plank, both work. Just listen to your body. Sometimes side plank can be a little rough on the wrists for some of us. All right, tuck the toes, lift the hips up. Now you're in forearm plank. Get long, stretch the legs back. Keep looking forward. One hand at a time, plank pose, then down dog. Hips go up and back. Left foot steps up between the hands, runner's lunge, feet hip width distance apart. Come up onto those fingertips. Dig down evenly as best you can in both legs, and then reach the arms back behind you. Keep squeezing those hands together too, so you keep the arms active. Right hand comes down to the mat, lift the left arm up. Left knee still pointing straight forward. If it's not, then widen the stance. Left hand inside the left foot, walk the hands over to the right, heels in, toes slightly out, bend the right leg, straighten the left, and either sole the foot down on the left foot, or you could start to lift the toes. Just keep the chest reaching forward, hands down for now. You can always take it deeper later if you want to. Back onto the soles of the feet, straighten the legs, toes forward, little bend in the knees to bring the hands up to the hips, press yourself up to standing, angle in the right toes, turn the left toes all the way out, Triconasana triangle pose. Reach that left arm forward, hips back. Remember, you don't have to go as deep for this one, so be gentle with it. Maybe you keep the chest up a little bit higher. Wherever you can get all the muscles working together, the whole body working together. So it's not just the stronger part of your body or the part that usually just wants to volunteer for everything first. Reverse warrior. Send that left knee forward, reach the left arm up and back. Make some space in the left side rib cage. Extended side angle, forearm to thigh or hand outside the foot. Reach the right arm up and over. Root down through that outer left foot or outer right foot, sorry, as you reach up and over with the right fingertips. Hands down to the mat. You come onto the ball of the back foot. That left foot goes back for three-legged plank. So you're just hovering the toes, squeezing those outer hips in. Roll onto the outer edge of the right foot. Decide, are you keeping that right hand where it is? Or are you coming down to the forearm? Left arm reaches up, side plank, either forearm down or hand down. Lift the hips, hug the core in, try to keep all toes pointing straight forward. Then come back to plank pose, one hand at a time, forearm plank if you're not already there. Stay here in forearm plank. Squeeze the core, reach the heart forward. Legs are squeezing back. Set the hips down, tops of the feet down, Sphinx pose. Push the chest forward between the arms, shoulder blades widening across the back. Legs are still firm, so try not to keep those relaxed even though they want to break. Back to forearm plank. Look down, tuck the toes. Fire up the legs, then lift the hips, not too high. One hand at a time, plank pose, downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look forward, step, walk, feet up between the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Chair pose, Utkatasana. All the way up to standing, hands come together, down in front of the heart. Inhale, sit back, chair pose. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, hands down to the mat, step back to plank pose. You decide vinyasa, or maybe you go straight back to downward facing dog. You're getting an idea for the flow. Listen to your upper body. Right foot steps up between the hands. Find that runner's lunge, feet hip width distance apart. Come up onto the fingertips, and when you feel ready, stretch the arms back behind you. Bring the left hand down to the mat. Right arm reaches up. Right hand inside the right foot, walk the hands over to the left. Heels in, toes out. Some version of Skandasana. So if you're ready to go deeper, you can go deeper. You just want to make sure that left heel is down on the mat. If it's lifted, keep the hands down. If it's down and it feels pretty good, then maybe you bring the hands together at the heart and you're still dragging that right heel in toward the body instead of pushing it away. Hands come down to the mat. Straighten the legs, point the toes forward, little bend in the knees to bring the hands to the hips. You press yourself up to standing, left toes angle in, right toes angle out, arms out wide, Triconasana, triangle pose. Reverse warrior. Right knee goes forward, right arm up and back. Extended side angle. Left arm up and over. Hands down to the mat. Come onto the ball of the back foot. Right leg reaches back for three-legged plank. You just squeeze those legs together. Then roll onto the outer edge of the left foot. Reach the right arm up, side plank. Right hand comes back down to the mat, plank. Then one forearm at a time, forearm plank. Set the hips down to the mat, tops of the feet, reach the heart forward. So changing up our vinyasas today, holding that forearm plank, which is definitely a full body workout, and still getting our back bend in with this Sphinx pose. Back to forearm plank. Look down at the mat, tuck the toes, fire up the legs, lift the hips up, one hand at a time, plank pose, straight back, downward facing dog. Other side, left foot steps up between the hands, feet hip width distance apart, coming up onto those fingertips, reach the arms back behind you, hover over this left thigh. Right hand underneath the right shoulder, left arm reaches up. So that outer right hip, it's hugging in toward the midline. Notice if it's not working together with the rest of the body. Left hand inside the left foot, walk the hands over to the right, heels in, toes out. This could be a different story on this side. Bend the right leg, straighten the left. Sometimes with this pose, one side is easier than the other side, so don't feel like you have to go in the same exact place as you did on the first side. It can be different. Hands come down to the mat, straighten the legs, toes forward, little bend in the knees, hands pop up to the hips, and you rise back up to standing. Angle in the right toes, turn the left toes all the way out, legs straight, arms wide, triangle pose. Shift the hips back, bring the left arm down, right arm up. Reverse warrior. Left thigh goes straight forward. Reach that left arm up and back. Left forearm, left thigh, reach the right arm up and over, unless you're bringing the hand down. Hands down to the mat, come onto the ball of the back foot, three-legged plank, left leg hovers back behind you, but you keep some action there. Roll onto the outer edge of the right foot, lift the left arm up, side plank, toes pointing forward. So that left hip wants to go up, you keep it pointing straight forward. Then come back to plank pose, one forearm at a time, forearm plank. Hold forearm plank. So you have plenty of time to get your form here. Set the hips down, tops of the feet down, Sphinx pose. Keep those legs active, point the tailbone back, look down the bridge of the nose. Tuck the toes, lift the hips, back to forearm plank. One hand at a time, plank pose, downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look forward, step, walk, hop, feet up between the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Bring the heels together and the toes out. So you're making that V shape with the feet. And then with the hands underneath the shoulders, lift the heels up high, keeping them connected, knees wide. And then just walk the hands forward. It'll be a really nice hip opening. The spine will round and you just drop the head. So toes and balls of the feet are down on the mat. Heels are lifted, touching. You're just opening up the hips with the knees wide. Then walk the hands back in underneath the shoulders, straighten the legs, turn the toes to point forward. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms all the way up to standing. Hands come together, down in front of the heart. Inhale, sit back, come into chair pose, Utkatasana. And we'll slowly bring the hips down to the mat. So lower the hips and lift the chest. Lower the hips, lift the chest. Keep going. You can even play with your squat here in a really traditional form. And then eventually ending up in Navasana. So setting the hips down, reaching the legs forward and the arms forward. Legs can have a bend in the knees. Chest is lifted. Then come to Ardha Navasana. So hovering the heels and the shoulders. Interlace the fingers back behind the head. What we did before, keep the inner edges of the feet together, bend the knees, bring them in. So you're lifting the hips and trying to get those knees down as far as you can, as close as you can to the underarms. And then inhale, extend, elbows wide, core hugs in. Exhale, curl, lifting the hips round, and then inhale, stretch. Exhale, bring it back in. Inhale, extend. Two more. Exhale, bring it back in. See if you can do it anymore. And then inhale, extend. This is our last one. We'll hold. Exhale, bring it in. Straighten the arms. It's like you're trying to push the ceiling or the sky away from you. So hands are flexed. See if you can crawl those knees in any more, hugging the core and feel that rounding of the spine. This is crow on your back. Hug the knees in toward the chest, rest the head. You can rock side to side. And then grab onto the backs of the thighs. If this is working for you, you can take several rocks like we did at the beginning. Otherwise, just come up to seated. And we're coming back to chair pose. So you can use the hands to get there, or maybe you find a way to build enough momentum to rock yourself back. Nice. Straighten the legs, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Same thing we did before. So heels together, toes out. You could walk yourself back so you have some mat in front of you. That always makes us feel a little bit more comfortable when we play with crow pose. Lift the heels up high, lower the hips. So knees out to the side, and then start the same way we did before. Just walk the hands as far forward as you can. Let the head come down between the arms. So as you do that, feel how low everything is. You actually want to keep your crow pretty low. So this is the same shape of the spine that we want to keep, even though we're going to be playing with where we shift the weight. So looking forward, start to walk the hands in, keep the shoulders as low as you possibly can. Here's where you can start to lift the hips up to see if you can get the arms any lower. You want the knees to be as high up on the arms as you possibly can. And then you squeeze the body with the knees and you press back out into the knees with the upper body at the same time. Index fingers point forward or a little bit out. Look forward, most important part. Don't look down, look ahead. And then shift the weight forward into the hands and the arms. So you're just barely on the toes. And then maybe you bring the feet together, lifting the pelvic floor, finding that rounding of the spine. Arms can be like chaturanga. You're working towards straighter arms, but you can always just stick with chaturanga arms for this arm balance. Feet lift as high as you can, Bakasana, crow pose. When you're ready, set the feet back down onto the mat, straighten the legs, come into a forward fold. And if you move back, come back to the top of the mat. Let the head and the neck go. And you can interlace the fingers back behind the head. Let the elbows come in. You can even bring the forearms on the side of the head, and that feels pretty good. Just gives you a little bit more rounding of the spine. Then bring the hands back down to the mat. Look forward, come up halfway, Ardha Uttanasana, and then hands down to the mat, step back to downward facing dog. Go straight there. Right foot steps up between the hands, feet hip width, reach the arms back behind you. Find that low runner's lunge, squeezing the arms together. Left hand down, right arm up. Right hand inside the right foot, walk the hands over to the left, heels in, toes out. Some version of Skandasana, see what's working on this side. Bakasana crow pose is a hip opening, so they should be a little bit more open. Then come back to center, toes point forward, little bend in the knees, bring the hands up to the hips, press yourself up to standing. Left toes angle in, right toes turn out, arms wide. Triconasana, triangle pose. Take this to reverse warrior. Extended side angle. Left hand to the mat, come onto the ball of the back foot, both hands down, three-legged plank. Right leg stretches back behind you. Roll onto the outer edge of the left foot. Keep those toes pointing forward, reach the right arm up. Maybe you hover the foot, you don't have to. And if you're hovering the foot, the right foot doesn't go higher than the hip. It's down pretty low. Hands come back down to the mat, plank pose to forearm plank. Hold forearm plank, get long. So you're trying to take the rounding out of the upper back. Set the hips down, tops of the feet down, Sphinx pose. So finding that back bend, taking some weight off the arms. Tuck the toes, hug the belly in, lift the hips up to forearm plank. Then keep lifting the hips up as high as you can. Push the chest back, walk the feet in, dolphin. So keep walking the feet in until you can't anymore. And then keep pushing the mat away from you. If you want, you can play with lifting the right leg up and looking forward. And if you're comfortable with the forearm balance, go for it. If you're not, here's a really good place, or keep both feet down. Right leg comes down. If you lifted it, walk the feet back to forearm plank. Take your time getting there. And then one hand at a time, plank pose, down dog, straight to the other side. Left foot steps up between the hands, feet hip width. Reach the arms back behind you. Hover the chest low. So putting that weight into the legs, freeing up the upper body. Right hand down, left arm up. Finding the twist. Get long in your twist from that right heel up through the crown of the head. Left hand inside the foot. Walk the hands over to the right. Heels in, toes out. Skandasana, your version. Hands down, straighten the legs, toes forward, little bend in the knees, hands to the hips, press yourself up to standing, angle in the right toes, left toes out, triangle pose. Reverse warrior. Ardha Navasana, extended side angle. Right arm up and over. Hands down to the mat. Come onto the ball of the back foot. Three-legged plank. Left leg reaches back. Try to keep the hips right in line. Roll onto the outer edge of the right foot. Left arm reaches up. Toes point forward. Lift the hips. Plank pose, left hand down, both feet down, one forearm at a time, forearm plank. Stay here. Work on the breath. See where you can get more space and length. Set the hips down, tops of the feet down, Sphinx pose. Finding the strength and grace of Sphinx pose. Smoothing out the wrinkles in the forehead, widening the space between the eyebrows. Tuck the toes, fire up the legs, lift the hips, forearm plank. Then lift the hips as high as you can, push the chest back, walk the feet in, dolphin on this side. So if you kept both feet down, you can do that here. If you want to lift one leg up, it's the left leg's turn. Maybe you look forward if you're taking that option. You could play with some hops if you want to, or go all the way up if that's happening. You just got to keep control of the hips, hug the core in. Set the left foot down, walk the feet back to forearm plank. One hand at a time, plank pose. Downward facing dog. Let the arms and the legs get really long. Lift the hips up as high as you can. Hug that core in and the lowest front ribs in. Take one more inhale. Exhale, child's pose. Bring the knees down to the mat, sit the hips back, forehead down. Probably arms back behind you. That was a lot of upper body. Then using the hands, bring yourself up. We'll come to seated, feet come to one side, and you'll extend the legs out in front of you. So as you extend the legs out in front of you, grab onto the back of the left thigh, bring that knee in, and then just grab onto the foot, sole the foot inside of the right leg. So make sure you're even on the sit bones. You might need to shift side to side a little bit. And then turn the chest to point toward the left knee, sitting up tall. So fingertips help you sit up taller. So you elongate the spine. And then you can bring the back of the right hand to this left thigh. Keep those right toes up. So maybe double check before you come all the way in. And now come into your twist. So gazing over the left shoulder, sitting up as tall as you can. Left fingertips can help you sit up taller, finding that length as they rest on the mat behind you. So keeping the body right where it is, just bring the gaze back forward and start to look at the right toes. Take your time getting the gaze there. Take the right arm forward over the right leg. Left arm reaches up and over. You could go forearm inside the leg. That's a whole lot deeper. So see which one is making you feel better and giving you more space. Both hips down. So if the left hip is trying to go with you, keep it down as you reach up and over. Some of you might be able to grab that right foot, but it's not necessary. Just reach away. You're getting a stretch either way. And the left arm brings you back up. Keep the chest pointing toward the left knee, so you're still in a somewhat of a twist. And then you'll use the hands to bring the chest back forward. And you'll start to center the chest with the right toe. So it's going to feel like a twist in the other direction. Reach the arms all the way up, fold over the right leg, Janu Shirshasana. The foot's right there. You can grab it without completely straightening the arms and go for it. If that's not happening, then just hands down to the mat is really nice, and you can let the head drop down toward the knee. You'll start to walk the hands back in. Use the left hand to bring the knee back to center, extending the left leg out in front of you. Grab onto the back of the right thigh, slide that foot in, grabbing the inner edge of the right foot, bringing it inside the left leg. And then open the chest toward the right knee, fingertips on either side of you, sitting up tall. Keep those left toes pointing up. Start to look over the right shoulder. Maybe the back of the left hand comes to the thigh. It's just there for support. So the twist is coming from the core, not from pressing the hand into the thigh. Just the head moves. Start to bring the gaze back forward over the left toes so you can see where you're going and also find that release in the neck. Left arm comes forward over the left leg or inside. Right arm reaches up and over. Both hips down, getting into the hips, but also that whole right side body. See if you can get it longer in the left side. Right arm starts to bring you back up. Keep the chest pointing toward the right knee as you come back up. Once you're all the way up, start to turn the chest so it points toward the left toes. Little twist in the opposite direction in the spine. Reach the arms all the way up on your inhale. Fold forward over the left leg on the exhale. Start to make your way back up. Use the right hand on the right knee to bring it back to center, extending that right leg out in front of you. Now let's take Baddha Kanasana seated. So bring the soles of the feet together, knees wide. We've been playing with this shape a lot, so this should feel pretty good. As you bring the feet in, sit up as tall as you can. Maybe you grab onto the inner edges of the feet and start to reach the chest forward. So keeping a long spine, the rounding out of the upper spine. Elbows can come out wide. And then once you find your place, then you can start to close the eyes, let the head and the neck go. Just keep reaching the chest forward over the toes so you stay in the hips. And you'll start to bring yourself back up to seated. Hands bring the knees back together. Extend the legs out in front of you, toes up. Inhale, reach the arms up. Fold forward over the legs. Paschimottanasana. And all the way back up to seated, coming into stillness, your seated meditation, or all the way down for Shavasana. Choose whichever one will set you up for the best day. Closing the eyes, starting to drop right in. You'll start to wiggle the fingers and the toes if you're on your back, deepening the breath, stretching the arms overhead, bending the legs, walking the feet in, rolling over onto your right side, cradling the head and the arm, and using that left hand to press yourself up to your meditation seat, sitting up tall. Bring the hands together in front of you. Bow the head as you maintain the lift of the chest. Take a moment to honor and acknowledge your heart and spirit, as well as everyone around you. Bring the head back up, blink open the eyes. Namaste.